Hello. This video I want to talk about Asperger syndrome and depression. Now, this is not an easy subject for me to talk about because I've experienced this myself, and it's certainly not easy to deal with. And I thought this was a very important subject because I read it in the news recently that almost half of people with Asperger syndrome and autism don't survive past around about 38. I'll have to look at the article later, but it was quite frightening statistics that the main cause of death for people with Asperger syndrome and autism is suicide. Now that's really not a pleasant subject, but nonetheless, we've got to talk about this. Now, let me tell you a little bit about my experience with this, because it's not good. For one thing, it's quite understandable that you can get depressed at times and suffer from serious depression. Essentially, one of the things is you've got that kind of sense of loneliness, you feel like an outsider, you have difficulty trying to fit in a world that you just simply don't fit into. And because of our kind of trusting nature, etc., people have taken advantage of us, and obviously people can be really cruel to those that they feel are different. Now, some years ago, I did suffer from very severe depression. I was very difficult to deal with around my friends and my family. Basically, I will say this though. There were people that actually caused this depression. Now, I'm not going to go naming names, etc., but they were responsible for this. And I think, in hindsight, I think there were a lot of warning signs, and I think there were things that people could have done that may have nipped it in the bud, sorted it out, or whatever. However, it did get bad. It got worse. Now, I can say that these individuals did not stop, and they pushed me way, way too far. And even to this day, I still feel a sense of bitterness and towards those people. Even though I'll never see them again, I hope, it still hurts, you know. But the situation did get so bad that I did literally go ahead and I was ready to take my own life. And that was a very horrible experience. Something that has somewhat traumatized me. It makes me angry as well, because it's not the person I am. Now, there were a lot of things that happened during this time. For one thing, I went on the antidepressants, and I've got to tell you right now, I didn't know this at the time, but antidepressants don't exactly work well with the Asperger brain chemistry. I looked it up. I realised that because our brains are differently wired, it kind of makes sense. So, and plus, when I went to this psychologist, I went kind of like textbook. That the so-called experts I had to see about my depression weren't at all helpful. In fact, some of the things that were said to me was downright evil. It was utterly disgraceful, and those people should not have a job in that area. Because who are they to judge who deserve to live or die just because the person is slightly different? Yeah. All I can say is how I got over the depression myself is I was able to retune my brain. Now, what do I mean by that? When you feel depressed, your brain, you feel off, and you kind of keep going over and over bad things in your head, and you've got this kind of like this loop of negativity. Yeah. But your problem is your brain's just focusing on the negativity all the time, right? What happened with me was I was able to refocus it. I was able to focus my mind on my obsessions. Obviously, I had a lot of help, but this is the thing. I was able to channel it, focus on something. And because I was able to do that, I wasn't thinking about what was making me upset. So I think the best thing of how we can deal with it, yeah, is by all means get help. I'm not, if there are people that are really properly trained professionals, go ahead. But then again, as long as they have some decent understanding of Asperger syndrome. I was a bit unfortunate, but there are people out there that are more or less are quite the experts. But this is the thing, refocusing the mind though. If you see the way we work is we can get absorbed into our own passions, you know, and like I'll give you an example. I had this brand new Zelda game and I was able to focus on it because I was so focused on it, and the kind of joy of beating the game kind of retuned my brain a bit. Now, a lot of people will say, oh, that's rubbish and all that stuff. That's fine, you know, that's what works for me, yeah, right? Now, I'm not saying that I didn't get other help from other areas. I'm not denying that for a second. What I am saying though is with depression, you essentially have to focus on what you have to refocus your mind. That's essentially it. That I can say honestly that whilst I do get bad days at times, I have more or less overcome the depression. The horrible thing is, unfortunately, we live in a world where not everybody's nice, and there are people that hate others simply because they are born differently. Right? It's a horrible truth to know, and I'm sorry to say this. Now, I'm not talking about people that have a bit of a joke with you at your expense, like silly little jibes. I'm talking about people that are really cruel and nasty and vicious about your family, basically attack you really personally just because, oh, he's got a disability and stuff. It should not be acceptable in society. I mean, give you to be fair, if some guy was walking down the street and he was shouting all racist stuff, it'd be put in prison, and rightly so, right? Because it's unacceptable. You know, racism is unacceptable, but xenophobia towards people with disabilities is also unacceptable. In fact, it's cowardly, right? Anyway, I want to end this video on a bit of a positive note. I'm going to say to you guys, the Asperger's, right? you're not alone, right? There are other people that are just like you that are dealing with it. We might not be able to relate to you, but we will try to help you as much as we can. And maybe my experience may help you, it may not. What I'm saying to you is you can do it. I've got through it myself, and that is because I've got some good friends and good family, and I was able to do it. I was able to beat that. If I can do it, you guys can do it. Just trust me on this one. Even though things can look really bad at times, things can get better at times. And even if they don't, yeah, right, always focus on what the positive side of things in life is. I know there are a lot of things to be negative about. Heck, little tiny things just to keep yourself positive, you know. So just wrapping it up, yeah. Yes, I know I keep saying all the time. Wrapping up, you can get through your depression, and there are people that are out there that want to help you, and that will help you should you ask for it. So don't be afraid to talk to people about it. Just make sure you can trust them, and they can help you properly. All right. Thank you very much. Bye.